Hello, everyone. Today, I wanted to talk to you about my hobby slash side business that I do for my informative speech. Uh, I play a lot of video games. I built my first computer back in 2016, 2017. I don't know if anyone here knows of PUBG, Player Unknown's Battlegrounds. It was the first battle royale game to kind of get really popular alongside like Fortnite. Uh, my computer at the time was heavily under-spec'd. It did not have enough power to run the game like normally. So I basically dropped about $1,200 on building my desktop that I'm still using today. I have a couple visual aids here to demonstrate how exactly you would go about putting together a computer and what each of the components are meant to do. To start us off, we have what's called a graphics card or a GPU, graphics processing unit. This is a very old card, about 2003. This thing was released. Uh, what you do is whoops, good catch. Slot this into your motherboard. Your motherboard is basically a big circuit board that every other component slots into, just houses everything. So you slot this into your motherboard. It has ports on the back. It allows the signal to come from your computer to your screen. This is a hard drive. It's a very old hard drive, only about 250 gigabytes on this thing. Nowadays you can get a whole terabyte for about $30. That is just a bare bones storage device. It's just meant for holding your data, and that's about it. Nowadays you can get an SSD, a solid state drive, which allows you to read and write data a lot faster because of the way this is made. The way this is made is that there is a physical disk that is in this, and there's like an actual needle that has to the needle has to go to the actual part of the disk that the data is stored on, which you can store a lot of data on here for cheap, but moving around files and high transfer rates is not what this is meant for. This is meant for bulk storage. That's about it. Moving on, we have it's called a CPU, a central processing unit. This is made by AMD, also a very old chip. This is called a PGA chip. You can see by the pins are on uh, the processor, the CPU itself, instead of the pins being on the motherboard. What this would do is this is pretty much the brain of the computer. This takes care of all the logistics processing and calculations, everything that basically that isn't the video being sent out. This little guy is taking care of it. Moving on, we have CPU cooler. So all this is that if you see right here, there is a spot right here along with some fins. What you would do is put what's called thermal compound on it, and it's a metal-based paste that you slather on here or on top of this processor. And what you do is you basically put it on top of this processor, and it allows for airflow to keep this component cool. Backpedaling back to the GPU, this has a similar solution, although the fan is already put onto the component straight from the manufacturer. And my last component that I have here, I unfortunately don't have a motherboard to show you. That isn't my own, but this is called a PSU, a power supply unit. Uh, these range anywhere between your crappy OEM, which is OEM is just fancy term from straight from the process, straight from the manufacturer, so like a regular desktop. Your crappy silver power supply units that are really bad, to ones that are like this, which are made for enthusiasts that build their own computers like me. This is a 80 plus bronze certified, which means that it is guaranteed to run at 80% efficiency, Uh, it is rated for 450 watts, and as you can see, all of the cords are tied to the back. They make power supplies that are called modular and semi-modular. Basically, I should probably bring this back actually. I need to talk more about it. If you can see here, there are all these big cords. All these have different uses. So this is the main power supply for the motherboard. So that is a necessary cord. Uh, so this is for both your fan and your CPU power. So that is a necessary cord. This is for your GPU power, also a necessary cord. But once we start getting to here, this is for your hard drive. So if you have a hard drive, this slots into the hard drive. This gives it power. You have two per cord, and you have two, excuse me, you have two separate cords for a total of 4 ports for hard drives. If you had a modular power supply, what you would be able to do is take out that cord to where you don't have a bajillion cords all strewn throughout your system that you don't need in there. So say you have a semi-modular means that all of the necessary cords that you're going to need no matter what are there. So the motherboard supply and the CPU supply are going to be there, but the hard drive's power supply and the optical device power supply, anything else that is optional and is not necessary, you have the ability to take it out to make a cleaner system. Then fully modular means that everything can be taken out, no matter what. Everything can be slotted in and taken out. You can buy different cords, different colors, all sorts of different things. The power supply that's in my system right now, I overspec'd the crap out of my system because I didn't want to touch it for 4 years. It's a 850 watt platinum rated power supply, and it is I basically there's two big companies, AMD and Intel. If you can think of it like Samsung and Apple, that's pretty much what it is right now. AMD and Intel make the processors, the CPUs for the market. Intel has had domination over the market for basically an entire decade, up until around 2017, when AMD dropped their Ryzen RYZEN processor lineup. This, if you can think of it, think if Samsung came out with an iPhone that was 12% crappier, but like 40% cheaper. That's pretty much what happened, and everyone just started eating it up. Like for the first time in over a decade, AMD had a competitive product to give to the market, and it not only introduced competitiveness to the market, it basically forced Intel to innovate again because they had been going with the same formula refresh for over a decade, which is 4 cores, 8 threads on their flagship product that costs over $400 with their motherboard. Coming out year after year, it's the same 4 core, 8 thread. Just, oh, we're going to marginally increase it, but you have to get a new motherboard and new prices, or the prices increase every time. AMD comes to the market, gives them a competitive product, and then the next year, Intel basically said, "Oh, well, we have to be competitive now. Here, our flagship's going to have 6 cores and 12 threads now." So, yeah. I believe I am going over time, so I'm going to cut it off there. Thank you very much for your time. Have a wonderful night.